So I've had a couple of thoughts this week. After what happened last weekend at a Donald Trump rally when somebody made an attempt on his life. And how the TV machine has, of course, sort of ached for a moment like this to really dive into it. What do you do when it seems like more primal political violence is the inevitable future? Whatever the relief of grown-ups, comparatively progressive, apparently taking the keys to Downing Street in London, you know, what's then happened a week later in the Midwest is it's opened the door to something even more worrying. So how can we engage with that? And I've had two thoughts that are interrelated. I'm conscious that growing up, the space that was held safe for me by my parents, definitely, but by the society they grew up in, post-war and in Britain, especially in the South maybe, it was safe enough for me to not have to learn how to be a warrior. I didn't have to learn how to fight. I could learn more about art and emotional truth. That great narrative theme I keep coming back to. Now that is, of course, incredibly privileged, right? But if you think that what's going on around the world right now is not directly linked to emotional truth, haven't been paying attention. So how can we respond? The first point that I'm sort of thinking about is, it sounds quite boring and technical, political language. Yeah, but this is absolutely a language you're using because you are, like me and like most of us, you care and you're engaged, you're imaginative and empathetic, and you want things to be better, and you have an innate sense of justice, right? That's basically all of us to some degree or other. And it doesn't look like it. You're thinking of particular friends. I don't know many. But political language, the most difficult bit is with the leadership, that we're sort of out of our control unless we pressure them. And that is that if the Labour leadership, if the Democratic leadership in the US, Macron's Renaissance Party, if they don't start to use language that admits their complicity in structural failure, that starts to say, we've heard you, we recognise your pain, we recognise we were wrong on some things. Some fundamental things about society need to change. Will you help us do it? If they don't start to do that more and speak into the lives of people where they're at right now, then they're handing power continually to the plunderers, the Nigels and the Donalds and the Marines who are speaking into that part of people's lives. To go back only and make it safe and sensible again is really missing the point. That's what we now call the neoliberal thing that led to so much of this, which is really just layers upon layers upon layers of injustice coming home to roost, manifesting, coming out as they were always going to, arguably. But it also has, political language is an implication for you and me, right? Because do you speak in an exclusive way with other people? Do you sound like you're from another planet? Now, yes, I have perspective. I know I'm told this all the time. I have and have made certain freedoms for me as an artist to think about such stuff. It's my instinct. As a generalist, a sense maker, a creative, expressive person, that's kind of what I do. But we all need to some degree. And can you use language that doesn't other straight away, that does sound like you have some sense of context, that you share, you share much more with other people around you than you think you do, that you're less quick to project onto someone else your idea of who they are, which is silly and two-dimensional and straight off the internet? Can you say straight, the respect of talking straight to somebody, no mate, that's bollocks, and then follow it up with, and I speak a lot of bollocks too, because we all do, because we get caught up in the moment because we care. You know, the whole idea of dialogue, as I've said elsewhere in my Future's Fucked talk, that concept of dialogue goes back to the very concept of democracy, Athens. And the structures of democracy is built on the wrong foundations as they are in the modern life, funded the wrong way. As imperfect as they are, as exclusive as they are, they still try to hold space for people to dialogue instead of fighting and to find practical compromise. If we lose that, we're pushed even further back. So how are you living in the light of that? Just down the pub, in the street. I think it's probably called love. But the other side is your emotional truth. How aware of it are you? I don't just mean in the sense tuning out and protecting yourself, though we all have to do that. I mean learning to dial out the noise and really live close to where you're most passionate. What do you most care about doing is the positive point. And how can you increasingly, consciously make from there? You know that I've said everywhere, and will say a lot more until the sun explodes, that when you make stuff, it changes you. It changes your relationship with fear, with your internal landscape, and with your view of the world outside. And in some ways, the fear can sort of disappear when you get into flow state, trying to make sense of things. When everything around, all the landscapes, our identities, our certainties, things that seem immovable and ancient, feel like they're moving under our feet. Got no idea what a physical earthquake feels like. It must be profoundly upsetting, troubling. The ground isn't supposed to move. It feels for millions of us like the ground itself is moving, right? Can't be sure. But how can you live in the light of a light still over the hill? That phrase I've used elsewhere. How can you live in the light of the future you want? By making it now. Making it evident wherever you go now. By problem solving it, getting into the flow state of trying stuff now. When everything feels like it's moving and I feel scared and I don't know what I can put faith in, that is where I am trying to stay rooted. I hope you can find your version of that right where you are. Begin to try it out. Because the future ain't written, mate. It's you.